Right, well, if I continue with this, I think a major problem we've got here is that after 2 World Wars, the man in the street never concerned himself with the country's enemies. After 2 World Wars, people wanted peace. And most considered that if they dreamed of peace, ignoring all the problems, never mind about that, because they fought 2 World Wars, they killed the beast, but they hadn't. In those days, communism was the threat, and people just dreamed of peace. They thought peace would automatically follow World War II. In particular, the man in the street suffered greatly from political correctness. Will it ever be possible to quantify the harm political correctness has done to this country? Only time will tell. Now, after 100 years of the Constitution being ignored, one thing we can say for certain is that the Constitution cannot fight for himself. We have to get this through to people. The Constitution can be the best in the world. If you don't fight for it, you might as well not have a Constitution. It can't defend itself. The man in the street cannot deal with the treachery of politicians without the Constitution. And the Constitution can't fight treachery if the politicians, the judges and everyone else, including the man in the street, ignores it all. Now, let's consider the various current issues and look at why the public are being kept in the dark, or the public are making, I have to say, the same stupid decisions again and again, and in so doing are allowing the enemies of higher law to gain over them time and time again. It is dreadful because actually it is our quality of life. You get one go at life. I don't believe that you come back time and again. I've worked hard all my life. Do you know I have got nothing to show for it? I've watched these lying, treacherous so-and-sos, mentioning no names, but definitely thinking of Blair. I look at all the money they get, and I understand one thing. All the while, million after million after million is put into their bank account. Other people like me automatically go without. You go for a job and they turn around and say to you, I can't afford much. Do you know every job I've gone to has started off with that? And do you know what? I think with smaller companies it's actually true. They are so highly regulated, it costs so much money. They virtually talk themselves out of business if they don't pay their workers cheap rates. So the thing is, we have to understand whether we work or whether we don't work, we are fast becoming a nation of slaves. And believe you me, if hard work had anything to do with the equation, you would be talking to a millionaire now. I'm not a millionaire and I don't stand any chance of being one. And what's more, you know, I've gone 50 and I realise now it doesn't matter how hard I work. The system really is geared against me unless the system changes so that people stop raking in millions and treating everything in the country as they're more entitled to it than their fellows. We are going to become that nation of slaves. I'd like to stave off that day. I really would. And I believe the Constitution is the right way to go. I'll put it this way. It's the legal way to go. When you go throwing red-coloured fire extinguishers at policemen, I understand the anger. Believe me, I do. I've lost all sympathy with the police. But it doesn't work overall because there's too much illegality in this country. People don't want more illegality. They want peace, they want fairness, they want justice, and they will not see people acting illegally as being on their side. Let's keep it legal, please, everyone. Now, if I had to start saying, where does the Constitution come from? It starts with the Mulmutine laws. They actually started in pagan Britain. And you'll see the start of that investigation in the Runnymede Messenger. The Runnymede Messenger you can see if you're not already subscribing, and it's a free subscription incidentally. You'll see that on Brits at Their Best and vote for it. Look us up there, and if you want to get involved, it tells you how to do that. If you want to send me an article. The man who started it was completely unpronounceable. I'll spell it. D-Y-V-N-A-L-M-O-E LMUD. I presume that's where the name Mulmutine laws come from. And very, very interesting subject. I'm certainly going to be doing a lot on that because somebody wrote to Albert Burgess. I'd never heard of these laws till I saw this man's email. And he said that's where habeas corpus came from. How many people listening to this programme knew that? I mean, for God's sake, we've got to have one of the richest histories in the world. What is happening in our schools? We thought our generation was the last well-taught generation of history. I've never heard of half these things. 'things. And people who are at school now, they're just not learning it. the oath changed for Edward VII, for George V, for George VI, and for our Queen. Did anybody bother to mention that? The coronation oath was really defined in the Act of Supremacy, certainly in the time of Elizabeth I anyway. Now, they have altered it. On whose say-so? You see, this is what is happening with so many laws in our country today. We're not even told that they've altered it. It's just done because we, the great unwashed, the great ignorance, the people they want to tax into the ground, are not worthy to be considered, or their opinion. That's wrong. Well, I think we, the great unwashed, have got to understand what is constituted by the Constitution. How many people understand that we handed over our personal sovereignty to the Queen? Frank Taylor will tell you, how did kings come about? Kings came about because in time of war, they wanted one leader. After that war ended, kings disappeared. They only got made up again when another war appeared, and then they all disappeared again. But then, you see, we got the power thing, didn't we? I often feel, if you look through history with a cold eye, the problem frequently actually isn't the monarch. The problem is the hangers-on. And that, I feel, is where the country is in a state today. They're the ones who want the power. They're the ones who are never seen to be manipulating. Those are the people we need to look at. People in this country, I mean, at the emails on the Constitutional Group's emails list, people get on there, they are so irascible, actually some of them can be quite rude. You people have got your heads in hands, why don't you do this, why don't you do that? Well, the only thing we can do, in my opinion, is to educate the general public. Now, you've got people like Anne Palmer. She sent this out recently. And she's saying, for example, one of the things that's been up on the email list for months now, support the Bill Cash amendment. He's got it right. Good old Bill Cash. Sorry, pardon, I don't think so. That statement is worthless, says Anne Palmer, and Bill Cash knows it. Well, that would appear to be the opinion, too, of people on Conservative Home blog. Lisbon also gave the EU competence and legal personality over national legislation. However, if you wish to send a letter, do so, but please also send the fact that the Queen has taken careful note and is therefore aware of any action that we may take in the future when time is right. Really, this is ridiculous. Honestly, this is what's come from the Queen. That letter is indeed Her Majesty's approval, even though she may never have seen it, and the writer of the response to us might never have even taken the trouble to read such a long letter. In brackets, long letters have their uses. That letter was written in deadly earnest because I do not believe there is any other way to save this country. I certainly can't think of anything else. We can get out of the EU now, but I know without a doubt that the day will come when we will be trapped forever in exactly the same way all those once separate states in the USA are trapped. And although all seems well there, basically they all speak the same language and are still states. The EU wants to be one state and all according to their laws. She's absolutely right. Even the Morning Star had a headline on the 13th of the 1st. MPs revolt at feeble EU bill. As they point out, the bill says significant. Sorry, pardon. Who will the person to decide what is significant? And as another person on the blogs pointed out, all right, so they get it through now. In the future, they can repeal that bill, that act. But in reality, the one act they need to repeal, the 1972 Act, and all the hate legislation and actually everything that came after, none of them want to repeal that because actually the politicians are quite happy to stay right where they are. Because when they get out of this Parliament, there'll be a nice little number waiting. Remember the Kinnocks? They've done rather well out of it, haven't they?